Um, in this session, we will talk about the evolution of international law. Um, Firstly, international law in the past, of course, uh, is not governing international relations. That is, states primary subjects, states are the primary agents, and then it only regulates interstate relations. Um, that is individual, even though some state leaders, they are not the subjects and agents of international relations. International law, I mean, international laws are laws which govern um, state-to-state relations. And the international law is very, very tricky. Of course, orderly speaking, we think that law, as I mentioned, as I taught you a few years ago in year one, that I mentioned one of the basic principles of rule of law is there are four levels of rule of law. The finest level, at the top level of rule of law, is to achieve justice through laws. But international law traditionally, uh, the establishment of international laws is not to achieve justice, it's to maintain some orders. The orders is usually based on the concept of sovereignty. Justice is not the main concern traditionally for international law. I'll give you a very good example. North Korea, this country, uh, there are lots of incidents of the damage of human rights of North Korea. But why international organizations or other countries on the world cannot intervene into the internal affairs of North Korea in order to save the life of North Koreans, to help North Koreans? Why? This is because of the principle of sovereignty. So, because North Korea is a sovereign state, then other countries and also international organizations cannot intervene on behalf of North Korean people to not rescue them from, you can say, the tyranny of North Korea. This is one of the questions because um, international law uh, maintain the order rather than justice. In this case, North Korea's education say that you can see that international laws maintain the principle of sovereignty, so that even North Korea, it is very obvious that the human rights of North Koreans are damaged by North Korean government. But the international organization, international or other states of the world cannot use international laws as the basis of their intervention into the internal affairs of North Korea. But there are some change in international law recently. Nowadays, individual also groups and organizations increasingly became recognized as subjects of international law. And also, international law now concern more about human rights. There are a broad range of international human rights laws, and then that's why we say that the international law allow progress to be some kind of supranational law. That is, in the past, international law, that is, some laws governing state-to-state relations, interstate relations. Now, is some law above states. Is some laws that govern. Uh, is some law that's governed uh, the whole world. All countries, all members of our global community must follow those laws, and those laws, this purpose for the establishment of those laws is to maintain justice throughout the world. And then, in some instance, in the past, international law is different from national law. international law just covers interstate relations, and then usually national courts, that is local courts, do not draw on concept of international law in their ruling. Now, quite often. The best example is this one. Maybe for girls or for some who do not like football. Of course, the girls who love football, you may be quite familiar with this case. For football superfans, you must know this case. This is called Bosman Ruling. In Chinese, it's called 波士文条約. In the past, a football player, even your contract with your club is expired, but your former club can still restrict your chance to play in other clubs. But because this player, Bosman, his chance to play in other clubs is restricted by his former club. So he goes to the European Court of the European Court, that is called the European Union, to sue his former club, and think that his former club damage his former club breaks the European law of human rights, which guarantee European citizens the right to work freely and inside member states of European Union. And then at the end, he won court case, and this ruling, that is called Bosman Ruling, this is ruling from the European Court, applies to all members of European Union. So then all football clubs in European Union can no longer restrict players which contract has already expired to play in another club, And also this ruling, because it has something concern with the restriction of non-European Union players to play in European clubs, and then the ruling consider that in fact some restrictions on non-European Union members to play in clubs in Europe violates the principles of human rights. So then there's no longer any restriction on on non-European Union players to play in European clubs. That's why you can say you can see nowadays a lot of non-European Union players play in European clubs, in English Premier League, in Spanish League A, I forget the exact name, in German Bundesliga, in Italy League A. So you can say this is a very typical case that the national courts now draw on the concept of international in the ruling. That is, the ruling of the national courts now can apply inside relations. And also, nowadays international law start to address the question of international justice. The Bosman, this ruling also concerned with international justice, because previously, before his ruling, before this case, players' freedom to choose to play in another club was restricted by their former clubs. Now, they can freely choose to play in different clubs when their contract is expired. Okay, then the laws of war Uh, Traditionally, laws of war is divided into two types. The first one is called jus ad bellum, and the second one is jus in bello. I mentioned what is jus ad bellum and jus in bello. Um, I think in the last lecture, that is about last two lectures about war. Then, in fact, in the very beginning, before 19th century, war was justified if it served a state vital purpose. So, war is a legitimate state behavior. Just like nowadays, today, you can say you know that a state have is legitimate to say refuse a person to enter its territory, its boundary. A state is legitimate to punish a criminal. Those are all legitimate behaviors of states. Wars nowadays is you can say very conditionally, but the condition is very restricted. War nowadays is conditionally a legitimate state behavior, but before 19th century it is quite unconditional. It is very justified for a state to wage war. In sovereign state, it is very legitimate. They can wage a war whenever they like in the past, but not now. This is so-called a Tokyo trial. I'll come back to this photo later. Okay. This is Tokyo trial. Why those people here? They face a trial mainly because they either they are all so-called Japanese war criminals. Why they are Japanese war criminals? Because of course this is a trial after the Second World War. So trial after Second World War, and then because some of them breaks international concerning jus ad bellum. For instance, they wage a war, wage an illegitimate war. That is invade China, including invade China, because invade China, that's no purpose for you to invade China. It's not for self-defense purpose. So they are charged with some crime related to jus ad bellum. And then some of them are charged with crime concerning jus in bello. That's just like the Nanjing massacre. It's very obviously an improper behavior during a war period. So, in fact, nowadays, in the past, it is legitimate for a state to wage a war in the 19th century, but in the 20th century, there's more and more restrictions on a state to wage a war. Till now, usually, state can only wage war under two conditions. Outside these two conditions, it is illegal for a state to wage a war. Outside these two conditions, that is for the purpose of self-defense, as well as the use of force as part of Security Council, that is UN Security Council-sanctioned peace enforcement action. Other than these two conditions, it is illegal for the state to wage war. More than thinking about war crimes, you can trace back from Hague Peace Conference of 1899 to 1907, which established a permanent court of arbitration. Then after this, because there's lots of war crimes during the first half of the 20th century, particularly during the First World War as well as Second World War. Then the international society decide to prevent the appearance of this war crime again. So they held 4 Geneva Conventions, and then they govern war crimes, including the following. The first one is willful killing. That is, you cannot kill whenever you like during a war. That's the reason why Nanjing massacre is illegal. Torture or inhuman treatment, like biological experience, willful causing great suffering or serious injury to body or health. So the use of nuclear bomb is illegal under the Geneva Convention. And you should treat POW, that is prisoner of wars, humanely. So those are prisoners of wars. Those are prisoners of war kept inside the POW camps in Hong Kong. They are treated very inhumanely. You can see they're so thin. Why? Because the Japanese government did not give them enough food, so they face a lot of disease. They cannot receive enough food. In fact, this behavior violates international laws. Taking hostages, unlawful deposition, transfer of confinement, as well as appropriation of property not justified by military necessity, and wanton destruction, that is, destroy indiscriminately, destroy properties indiscriminately. These are the areas in which international laws prohibit. That is, prohibits these areas of illegal behaviors during war period. Okay, then we'll talk about international organization in the next video clip.